The Melbourne Cup certainly dominated the headlines of sport in Melbourne during the week, but on Monday night, as a prelude to the big race at Flemington, there was certainly some great trotting action at Moonee Valley. And joining us now from our Melbourne studios is Adam Hamilton. Adam, it was the Melbourne Mile at Moonee Valley, and a great performance by young Mr. Charles, making it back-to-back. He did also win the Inter-Dominion earlier in the year, but even though that's a story in itself, a marvellous story around the driver, Frank Scaravelli.
Certainly is. Frank, one of our real characters in harness racing. He's owned young Mr. Charles since he bought him from New Zealand about 3 or 4 years ago. And Frank's always wished to drive young Mr. Charles in a big race. He was granted his licence to drive in city races only 3 or 4 days before last Monday's $50,000 event. And what a highlight it was for Frank. It was a daring drive, a dashing drive. He stunned some of his rivals with his performance, but you can see him. He's sitting in second place now at the moment. The former North American pacer, Tibet, is leading, and we'll look for the horses finishing on. The horse in the orange and black checks running fifth, Our Sir Vancelot, and also Lucky Camilla, a horse who comes from well back in lime and yellow colours. But it's Tibet in front, and this is where Frank makes his move on young Mr. Charles.
What a dream debut for Frank, Adam. You know, this is stuff that fairy tales have come true, really, for him. Only 3 or 4 days with the licence.
It certainly is, and he's a hard man to understand at the best of times, but when he's in celebration mode, I virtually gave up, David.
Nimbo Boy under pressure. Our Vancelot to the outside, and then our Ainsley Lucky Camilla. Tibet and young Mr. Charles on the turn. Tibet fights back to lead a metre, young Mr. Charles. Coco's Dream and our Vancelot running on. Tibet in front, young Mr. Charles won't give in. Here's our Vancelot. Young Mr. Charles after Tibet. Our Vancelot flying. Young Mr. Charles at the front. What a run! Young Mr. Charles.
Yeah, great moment for Frank Scaravelli and our young Mr. Charles, and Tibet, the ex-North American horse, finishing second, and our Sir Vancelot, one of the great up-and-comers, finishing in third. But it's a great level of this race. We virtually expected a